episode 6 of my training, running, ultra running vlog as I'm racing 100-mile ultramarathon on average every month for the third year in a row. This week's episode covers 3 weeks, so a small training block, and my first mountain race of the season, Bighorn 100 mile. Hey, Simon here. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my running vlog. This training vlog follows my adventure as I'm racing 100-mile ultramarathon on average every month, sometimes a little more than that. And the goal of this series is to bring you along to shed some light on what it takes to race that much and really being as transparent and as honest as possible, and hopefully to inspire you but also provide you some guidance to have your own adventure. This episode covers 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks because I'm trying to sync a little bit more my racing and training to the episode. And I started this right after my last race, which was Bryce 100-mile ultramarathon. Then I had a small training block for 3 weeks, and then my first mountain race of the season, Bighorn 100-mile in Wyoming. And I think it's a really exciting period right now because we're transitioning towards the summer season, and summer season is not bikini season. Summer season is mountain season and mountain racing. We start with Tahoe Rim Trail 100-mile in Nevada, followed by Angeles Crest 100-mile in California. Then after that we have Leadville 100-mile in Colorado, and then the big race, one of my dream race, is Tour des Géants in Italy, which we're going to be racing early September. So today I'm going to cover that 3 weeks period of training ahead of Bighorn 100 mile, provide you a little bit how the race itself went, just a high level, how I felt and these sorts of things, and also some exciting news related to the channel. So let's dive right in. So we start exactly where we left it in the last episode. I raced Bryce Canyon, had 1 week of recovery, and now we're finally in a training block, first training block in a while, and potentially the last one also for a little bit, because I don't necessarily have so much time between a race and the next race where you have a 1 week recovery and 1 week of taper. But this time I had a proper training block and I'm pretty happy to share that with you. You'll see my training was really not perfect in that block, but I'm still pretty happy with it. And in fact, Monday, the first day, I didn't feel quite 100% recovered yet. So I went for a small jog, just 5 miles, not necessarily too fast. And then a sauna session, massaging my leg, trying to relax a little bit. Tuesday, I went running with Nora in the morning with a small running club, very small, local. I think we were 4 people. It was interesting to chat with people. Not necessarily the biggest workout, but it was just good to wake up very early in the morning to get that done because the rest of the day was super busy. I was able to skip lunch and instead had a little recovery walk, but that was it for Tuesday. Wednesday, my focus was to get back on some strengthening session. I hadn't done any in a while, so I scheduled one. I started with a small shakeout run, did a 30-minute session with some weights. I have a video about what I kind of tried to do. I didn't do exactly that, but similar exercise. Then a short 3-mile run just to activate blood flow a little bit to help with recovery. And I also had a sauna session. It was not necessarily the most intense strength session ever, but I tried to push it a little bit because I felt like I just never include it in my normal calendar. I never do that when I'm in recovery or in taper mode, so it's pretty rare that I have a strength training session and I wanted to make the most out of it. But as you will see, I will pay for it in the later stage. I think that's a cycle that I often go through. I skip strength training for so long that then I do a big session and then I just push a little too much and then I struggle a little bit more with my workout in the next few days. Because Thursday I was a little sore from the day before, which means I guess it was a good workout, but maybe a little bit too strenuous. So I decided to go for a small jog, not too fast, 6 miles at a decently slow pace for me. Friday I was still a little sore, and also I just didn't have so much time, so I decided to go for an indoor cycling session just to keep moving a little bit. But you can already see that my kind of strength training session impaired the rest of my training, so I should have been a little bit more careful. And I think in retrospect, what maybe I should have done is instead of just grouping that in one session, I could have spread it over several days and do some squat on that day, maybe some calf on the other day. But I just wanted to make the most out of it. But it turns out that that was a mistake. I should have been just a little bit more mature about it and just a little smarter about it. Saturday, I was mostly okay, but quite frankly also, I mean, I didn't mention it, but part of the reason why I struggle so much after my strength training session to recover quickly is that work has been pretty busy, and that week in particular was really busy. So Saturday, I just need some time to relax a little bit. But you know, it's not just relaxing. It's, for example, it's working on these movies. It's recording some of our podcasts with Brian. So working on these other things, but that kind of pulled away some of the time from my training. So I went for a small run, I went for the sauna, but mostly that was more kind of a physically recovery day so I could get things going outside of work itself. But on Sunday, I was really happy. I was able to go with Nara on a decently long run, so 13 mile, but with a decent amount of elevation climb. And that's just a good workout that I like to do. It's kind of my hill training that I try to do at least once a week.
Wake me up before you go. Missing to something, don't know the words.
Then the beginning of next week, again, busy with work. There was a conference at work that I had to go to San Diego, which is in my area, but that's just a lot more driving than usual, and I was just busy. So I couldn't include nearly as much as I wanted, but I made sure to walk a little bit, have some recovery, kind of walk a little bit, and just consider that to be rest days instead of full workout. But I was able to squeeze a few decent workout in there. So for example, Tuesday I went for a small interval session. It was a pretty good session actually, and you maybe noticed the week before I didn't have high intensity, and that's because the plan was to do it towards the end of the week, but my strength training session kind of cut that short. So I was happy to include that as early as possible within that week. So on Tuesday I did that. I also did on Wednesday a pretty decent hill workout. So it's a long run, 10 miles with a decent amount of elevation gain. And then I again did something stupid. So I was chafing a little bit. It happens to the best of us, but yeah, I just didn't think about my... And because of that, I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna remove my shirt. So far so good, but apparently it was sunny, and apparently I don't go to the beach often enough. So I had a pretty decent sunburn, which was super annoying and super painful in the next few days. That was kind of silly. I should know better than that, but I guess sometimes we do stupid things. Thursday I had a strength training session with a little bit of running, and this time I was smart enough, or maybe it's because last week or the week before I was just not used to doing these sessions, but already I was better, so I was not too sore afterwards, and it was a decent workout. So I'm very happy that in both weeks I include strength training session. That's something that myself, I know I will tend to skip it. That's one of the first thing I will skip is strength training session. And the other thing, and you know, I'm saying that so you can hold me accountable. So the thing I skip very often is strength training session, and then things like interval or speed workout. But for the last one, what I often do instead is, instead of this high intensity being speed work, I will do hill work. Friday, I tried to do about 10 miles of running, but I was not able to do it. And it's just kind of weird. I'm not so sure if it was allergy or if it was my sunburn on my back, but I got super, super itchy. And I think I'm a decently tough guy and I can sustain pain, but the itchiness was so bad after like a mile. I just couldn't stop scratching myself and everything, and just it was really, really, really bad. I had to stop. I had to go back to the shower and then shower in the cold water, which helped a little bit for a little bit of time. And then the pain or the itchiness came back, and I just was not able to run on Friday because of that sunburn or allergy. I really don't know. I don't have allergy like that, but it didn't feel like a sunburn. Like, it was so much more painful, but at the same time I just had the sunburn. So kind of a big mystery, but yeah, that did pull me away from running, which is kind of, yeah, it was really, really intense. Then Saturday with Nora, we did again our 13 mile with a good climb. That was a good workout. That was the last big workout before heading to Wyoming for Bighorn 100. So we traveled over the weekend to get there, and then Sunday afternoon, evening, we were able to go for a short run with Nora, about 8 mile, slow pace, just to get used to the altitude there, maybe 4,000 feet, so nothing too high, but at the same time, it's not sea level, and I knew that I was getting in the mountain very soon, so it was good to kind of get moving over there and get my lungs or my body a little bit more acclimated to the elevated altitude. 4,000 feet is not crazy, but the race goes up to 8,000 feet, which for someone from sea level, 8,000 is where I start to feel the impact, especially on a longer distance like 100 mile. I really see the difference. So being able to step up slowly to 4,000, I'm sure was very helpful. And the reason we traveled over the weekend and we spent 1 week there is because, well, we were both working remotely during that week. So even though I was there, I was not able to go on trail and actually discover it. But I was in town and I was able to do some of the recovery work or kind of tapering work that I typically do, which meant I went for some small jog, but very often it was just kind of recovery walk or jog and just kind of relaxing, but getting my body still moving a little bit so that I'm not just sitting down all the time. And finally, the big days here, Bighorn 100 mile. It's a race, if you're not familiar with it, that is quite historical. I think it's been running for over 30 years. So a very big event, a very famous event, and for good reason. The course is in the Wyoming mountain in Bighorn Mountains. It's a gorgeous course, pretty rugged, a fair amount of elevation climb, I think about 20,000 feet. And it's a course that is famous or notorious for being very, very muddy. My understanding is that this year was much better than usual, but still we had a fair amount of mud. It was basically impossible to keep your feet dry for the whole day. But even before diving too deep into how the race itself went, we had the opportunity to spend some time with Rob and his daughter Emily ahead of the race and also a little bit during the race. So that was absolutely great. Nora was with me. She was not crewing. She had to work Friday and the race is Friday, but she was able to pace me for the last 52 miles. So yes, you heard that right. She ran 52 miles with me as a pacer. So she did her own ultra marathon and she had to take care of me. So thank you so much, my love. How many miles?
52.
Well, what does your Garmin and Strava say?
It's fucked up.
And as you know, on this channel, I try to be transparent as possible. I don't try to hide the uncomfortable truth. And the uncomfortable truth for this one is that I was so busy leading up to the race that I never had the time to kind of build up the excitement to the race. The race just happened. It was today, we're the day of the race, and I didn't have time to look at movies. I didn't have time to really prepare, and I didn't have time to get excited or motivated about it. It's not that Bighorn is not a race that I've wanted to do for a long time. I've wanted to do for a long time, but I feel it just kind of, it's race day today, and it's like, oh, okay. And I was just not in the mood to race it. And that kind of affected my performance for sure. You know, it's so difficult to run 100 mile, even if you do a lot of them, it's never easy. And I was just feeling all day a little bit like, I'm gonna do it. And sure, I had fun, but I was just not in the mood. And what's frustrating for me is that the race is great. The volunteers were cheerful, they were helpful. The course was really cool, a lot of single track in the mountain. That's exactly what I want to do. But my heart was just not in it. And I think I need to come back. I need to come back for Bighorn to really experience it when I'm in maybe a better mood, when I'm a little bit happier or a little bit more jolly happy, so that I can really enjoy the race, because the race itself was great. How did it go? It started pretty much right away with climb. I had the legs then, so that was not an issue. In fact, I kind of forgot about it. And because the race is a 50 mile in and then 50 mile out, when I was coming down that big hill, I was like, it was much longer than I remember. But we go up. I had the opportunity to talk also with Martin. You can check his channel, a very interesting channel, a great runner. He does a lot of long distance running, including 200 miler. So a very good inspiration. And we were able to talk a little bit about some of the races that are coming up, both in his calendar, but also in my calendar, because he has a huge amount of experience. So it was great discussing with him. And the days start to be hotter and hotter. And I think a lot of people struggled with that. I just kept grinding. But as I said, my heart was just not in it, but at least I had a goal in mind and kind of an objective. And the objective was to meet Nora. And on top of the energy not being there, I struggled a lot with nutrition to the point I had a lot of nausea, to the point where towards the end, I was often not even eating at all on trail. And the only thing I would consume would be water. And at aid station, maybe 100 or 200 ml of Coke. That was about it. Maybe some ramen noodle, but really not sufficient. But I was just not feeling good, maybe because of the altitude. And midway, we had a lot of mud, splish splash, your feet are wet, and I really had to take care of my feet, and I did, I think, a pretty good job at that. So my feet are not messed up. So overall, not my best race, definitely not my best performance. I really feel that I need to come back and experience it. But I think it's going to still make a wonderful movie, great scenery, and I'm being pretty negative in the way I describe how I was feeling. It's just to be transparent. It's not like I had zero fun at all. I did have fun, but my heart was not into it. My heart was not into pushing myself, because you need to push physically and mentally. And if you're just not in the mood, yeah, it's kind of difficult. In terms of when I'll release the movie, I'm retargeting this weekend. And I'll try, as I did with the past two movies like Cocodona and Bryce Canyon, to have kind of a premiere a little bit where you guys can come in. It's going to be live. I'm going to be in the chat. We can talk together, ask questions. I really like this level of interaction. So I'm going to try and say when the movie is going to be released ahead of time. And I think right now the realistic target is probably Saturday or Sunday, but it depends how work goes this week. But I'm very excited to share that with you. And that's it for the race, and that's it for the vlog portion of the vlog. Like I said, there's little thing happening with the channel. First is I have so many movies right now in the making. Some that are coming up short term is my recovery after 100 mile and kind of the step that you go through or your body goes through after racing a race, but also how to be able to get back to running again. I think there are things that you can do that can accelerate that, both physically but also mentally. One news is that I'm signed up for the wait list, not for the actual race of the Arizona Monster 300 mile next year. If I get pulled from the wait list, that's going to be a pretty cool adventure. 300 mile is kind of crazy. If not, it's in April, so if not, I'm going to be doing Zion 100 mile again, which is one of my favorite races. Finally, at Bighorn, I was testing a few different gears that I'm very excited to talk about. One were headlamp from Phoenix. The other one were trail running shoes that I've tested at Bryce Canyon 100 mile, and I've tested them again in a different trail or different context just to see the full breadth of them. So it's Joe Nimble's Trail Addict. So I'll make a movie about both the trail running shoes but also the headlamp to let you know what I think about these products, if I think they're good, if I think they're bad. And more importantly, I don't necessarily believe in good or bad. I think it's sometimes also just understanding where or when you should use something, and I'm going to try and communicate that as clearly as possible. As always, thanks for watching. If you appreciate this video, please leave a thumbs up and see you soon.